To episode 20 in the Crush Cash Game series. As always, if you haven't taken the time to click the subscribe button, I would very much appreciate it if you did. I'm going to have a sweepstakes drawing on, I believe it's August the 1st, for a month worth of poker coaching. That's worth $600, and I'm just going to have my subscriber list printed out, have a random number generator. Right now I believe it's at 255. Just go to random.org, put in 1 through however many subscribers I have, click the button, and that person wins. So basically a free roll. Right now, valued at, $2, a little over $2. But hey, why not? Looks like this is a brand new session. If the small blind raises here, we're definitely going to be flatting with our Jack-9 suited. Not going to be 3-betting, although I have been experimenting lately with 3-betting pretty wide from the big blind versus small blind opens. I feel like a lot of people are opening way too wide from the small blind to the big blind with hands that can't really stand up versus 3-bets. So I've been 3-betting kind of the bottom part of my range. Hands like 10 tray off fall into just the very bottom of my range. Like if we do get 4-bet, when we are 3-betting these types of hands, they have hardly any equity post flop, so it's okay. Like we just fold to the 4-bet. But if villain's opening, King 9, Ace 7, Ace 6, like those type of hands, they're just not going to be able to play very well out of position versus our 3-bet, and they know that. And a lot of times, they just give up, or they'll call to try to peel with their Ace 10, and we can see bet them off it. So basically, I'm polarizing my 3-bet range from the big blind when battling the small blind. King 7 suited at the bottom left. It's relatively light open. Not really much info on anybody. We could have very well just folded it and, made the big laydown, let the King 7 go. The Ace 6 suited at the top left, we could have let that one go as well. I do like the fact, I guess, that the big blind's a fish and he's likely to peel, so we're likely to have a more multi-way pot. When the big blind, when the button does peel here, it freezes the under the gun raiser from, it's a lot harder for him to c-bet with his air with only 2 bets left. So the assumption is he pretty much has to play fit or fold, and once he checks, he basically doesn't have anything. We decided not to take a shot either, so let the fish have it. We 4-bet at the top right. It's not on the screen anymore, but standard button open versus small blind 3-bet. This is a spot where, at mid stakes, the 2, 4, 3, 6, 5, 10 level, like guys, the games have been playing very aggressive. There's a ton of light 3-betting going on. So in order to combat that, we have to open up our 4-betting range, and that's a spot where I really like 4-betting when we open the button, because people are opening the button so wide, they are stealing tons of hands, especially with just a min open. So we're gonna get 3-bet a ton, and we can 4-bet and fold out a lot of hands. rearranging the tables now. Doing a pretty terrible job of it, keeping it in the video frame. I realized that in order to fix the problem that I had with the videos before, when I was clicking the cascade button, I have to tile them every time I get a new window up, and I can't really discern much rhyme or reason as to how Bovada tiles the tables, like in order. If anybody has any good ideas as to how they tile their tables, like to where they don't, turn into a jigsaw puzzle every time I press that button, I would be very grateful for that information. Admittedly, I haven't put tons of thought into the problem either. It's something that I just think about, like, whenever I actually have to click the button, and then I go about living my life after that. I forget. This 8-3 offhand is a spot where we for sure should have 3-bet. The reason we opted to call was getting 3-1 with position, planning on doing a lot of outplaying, post-flop, villains that are opening minimum from the small blind to the big blind. I mean, they're just asking for it. They're giving us a great price in position. All they really have is initiative. So we're gonna go to war. We're gonna go to war with our opponents when they do that. Limp raids the 6-9 suited, get called. When he folds that quickly on that board, we just have to assume he's got a pocket pair. Maybe occasionally a suited connector, 9-10, something like that, 7-8. Isolating with the Jack-8 seems reasonable. Here's a problem with flatting under the guns with Queen-10 suited. We get super squeeze behind us. Possible we should have peeled with the Jack-8 on the bottom left. I'm not sure if the last to act villain sizes an ace that big. I feel like if he did have an ace, he would size it around 32 and not 40. So very well should have peeled with middle pair. Although when we do peel with middle pair, it begs the question of what he perceives our range to be. If he perceives our range to be like kings through jacks or something like that, then we're going to get in trouble because he's just going to keep firing away. So basically we have to use our one bet sizing read in order to call him down on all streets. Bottom left table looks to be pretty good. 2 fish directly on my right. The bottom right table, don't really know what to think about it. The button could be a fish, he might not be. The top right, not enough information, and the top left, well, the guy on my left was a fish, but now he's gone. At the bottom right, the 6-seed just isolated, what was that, ace-4 off versus a limper, and he isolated 3x. Normally we 3-bet the 3x isolate, because I don't see them doing it with a super value hand. But the problem in that particular spot was the limper was a short stack, and short stacks love getting it in, and they're kind of unpredictable. If he isolates a 12 and I make it 40, now the short stack just arbitrarily decides to jam for 96, then basically we're getting it in with Jack 10 off, which isn't really my favorite thing to do in that spot. Easy open with King 10 suited. It appears as if that table at the top right isn't so great. Probably shouldn't be folding the ace 6 off so quickly. I guess if the 2 seat or the 3 seat were to limp, we could isolate with it, although the 5 seat seems to be playing a lot of hands right directly behind us. And that's going to be a problem with our isolations. I still feel that, just clicking the fold button is giving up a little bit of an edge. I mean, it's probably a minor edge, but it's still something. Flatting with the 7s versus a nitty player who, with the, well, again, very small sample size. His 3-bet super high, but who really knows? I think it's tough there with a hand like 7s on the button. We feel as if he's going to be 3-betting us somewhat light. We don't know how much implied odds we have if we do flat and flop a set. Are we going to get a stack? Seems unlikely. We'll have to proceed on some boards that are favorable to us. And we'll have to turn our hand into bluffs in some spots as well in order to make flatting profitable. We can't just be flatting for set mining, because I think it's going to be really hard to turn a profit. After 12 hands at the top left, I feel like we should be attacking our button a ton, considering, the 2 seat appears to be pretty tight. We need to be stealing, picking on his blinds. 2 pretty good hands at the top and bottom left. I think we should be flatting with the aces for sure. We're going to be getting 3-bet pretty light in that spot by the 1 seat. When we check call here with the aces, our range from his perspective is going to be a lot of pocket pairs, possibly some jacks, probably not a ton of flush draws. He's going to continue barreling this turn, I would think. So now here, do we flat or do we get it in? Again, once we flat the turn, it looks like our range is pretty capped to 1 pair type hands that may feel inclined, that he may feel inclined to bluff against. If he's not going to be bluffing the turn, then bluffing the river, then flatting the turn is a pretty bad mistake. And we definitely missed some value there by not just 4-betting a pre. And by flatting the flop, but that's just going to happen sometimes. I mean, we ran into the very top of his range. Obviously, it was a cooler type situation where most of the time, where, you know, we always get a stack if we 4-bet pre, but I feel that we're going to get 3-bet from the button so often. And it's just going to be way more profitable to flat the 3-bet than to 4-bet it. And the great thing about Bovada is, you know, the tables are anonymous. So at tables that aren't anonymous, where, you know, we build histories with people, then we're gonna have to have a 4-betting range for that spot. That includes aces and kings and ace king and all that. At Bovada, we just disappear into the night, and then that's that. I think that lots of people who, you know, play on Bovada, they use the fact that there's anonymous tables as a bad thing, because we don't get any history on our opponents. But, you know, it works both ways. They don't have any history on us either. They don't really know who they're playing against. They don't know what we're capable of compared to the rest of the field, the rest of the regulars. So we can get away with a lot of stuff that we wouldn't otherwise be able to get away with. And we should really take advantage of that fact. Looks like we got a weak player at the top right, limping in the cutoff. If the 5 seed opens at the top left, I feel like we should 3-bet him. If we get 3-bet at the top left, we should be flatting. This guy's 3-betting a decent amount. He's going to assume we're stealing the button a decent amount, so we want to protect our steals. So getting 3-bet at the bottom right, four-handed. You can make the argument for just getting jacks in here. I mean, pre-flop. Since we opted the flat, this is obviously not the greatest of flops for us. We should probably be peeling one time, though. If we do peel one time, what hands can we expect him, like, will he just continue betting the turn with his random ace-x's? What's our perceived flatting range? I would think that, you know, we have a lot of king-queens, we probably have some tens, and we have some straight draws in there. So our range isn't super-duper strong, and the fact that our range isn't very strong might induce extra bets post-flop, which obviously we don't want with our particular hand. So I do see a pretty good argument for just giving up on the flop and folding. Check calling with the ace-king. Just not gonna fold it since he didn't bet the flop. Since he didn't bet the flop, I jammed the turn for protection. I feel like we have the best hand. So since he opted not to bluff, it's unlikely he's going to bluff the turn, and he's just going to check back and realize his equity heading into the river. $5x open at the bottom left. I'm really glad the small blind shoved because, well, 5x open would have created trouble for us. So we are value betting at the top left, but it's going to be hard for us to get called by worse. If the audio here seems a little crazy, it's going to be because I had some issues that I had to edit out. So we get the standard, bajillion times X open by the fish, and we opt to get it in. So that didn't work out so well. We probably should have just flatted instead of going ahead and getting it in. We just, this type of fish just appears to give, obvious betting patterns pre-flop that we just kind of got tunnel vision against and said he's playing every hand, he's opening wide, we have ace-queen, that's going to be ahead of him, let's just get it in. I think that reasoning was flawed. This particular opponent's mistake is going to be playing way too many hands and having better betting patterns post-flop. We should have done a better job of taking advantage of him. Made our flush at the top right. Luckily, the fish is still around. We still have an opportunity to get his money. Appears as if, the 5 seat at the top left is going to be pretty fishy too. Limping the button three-handed. Can't really imagine what he would do that with. The 4 seat is probably opening very wide. We can't really do much because we opted to limp with our 9-10 suited, but I do feel as if calling it is going to be profitable post-flop. And that's about the highest equity flop we can get. Top pair with the backdoor flush draw. Okay, it's not the highest, but it's a really good one. It's top, 20%, 15%. I think we should opt for like 92 here. Looks like we're going for big sizing for more polarized. I do think we have a decent amount of 7s in our range though. Probably not many full houses, but we do have a lot of 7s. We were trying to go for extremely polarized, like nuts or nothing type hands, but I feel as if a smaller sizing would accomplish our same goals in our opponent's eyes. So when we go for the bigger sizing, I think it kind of tips him off. Very annoying spot with the 8s at the top right. Looks like I'm going through all the potential options. Do we 4-bet fold? Do we flat? Or do we just fold? They all seem pretty viable at first blush. I think 4-bet folding is a reasonable line. Flatting is going to get a lot trickier because post-flop we're not really going to know what to do. There's so many flops that freeze us, and we're kind of flying blind. So flatting, I would say, is not as good as 4-betting. 4-betting's probably a little better than folding. Just depends on the frequency of the 4-bet squeezing range there. We really, we have two hands of information on him. We, our gut reaction is that he's going to be 3-betting pretty wide, squeezing in that spot fairly wide, but we really have no information to back that up. We saw the fish at the bottom left, who now is pumped up to a full stack thanks to our heroic stand with ace-queen. Hopefully we can take advantage of him. Hopefully he doesn't go bust right there. It's a good start. Mr. Ace-King suited. So we get 3-bet at the bottom right. I feel like, we should be 4-betting this spot. Fairly wide, but the fish, the problem is like the fish, the 5-seat fish is, I guess the 5-seat fish would be jamming some percentage of the time. The 4-seat kind of has to know that. If the 4-seat has a hand like a good multi-way hand, he's flatting, so that really removes a lot of the bluffs from his 3-betting range. He's going to flat simply because he wants the 5-seat to come along. Got a good run out with the nut flush at the bottom left. Went for the overbet just because we feel like most of the value hands that the 2-seat's going to have would have bet the flop or the turn. So basically, the only value hands he has at that point would be backdoor flushes just like us. So hoping for max value from a backdoor flush. I guess we could have bet small to try to induce some sort of raise or maybe get paid by a middle pair type hand. But in situations at the bottom right table, we really have to take into consideration the players behind us. Fish who are acting after the villain in 3-bet pots and stuff like that really influence the action that the villain takes, and we need to take that into consideration and not look at the situation like he could be 3-betting me with X. Like, when you look at it from that perspective of just you versus villain, you lose a lot of important information that's just sitting there for you. Unfortunately, our fish left at the bottom left table. That's not good. Yeah, so this guy's asking to get 4-bet. Which I gladly do. and hopefully he doesn't gladly 5-bet get it in. Which he did. Oh man. We do have a pretty nitty image at that table, so 4-betting it seems perfectly reasonable. Just unfortunate that he, we ran into a hand that wanted to 5-bet get it in. Even if 3-handed, they're going to be getting it in a little bit lighter. They still have to, pick up one of those hands like 9s plus or ace-queen suited plus. Even then, like, those hands are not feeling amazing about 5-bet getting it in versus our perceived range. Isolating with the ace-queen, that seems perfectly okay. Probably going to be going nuts on a king-high board. We block ace-king. We block king-queen. So we're playing against a fish in this spot. I would think that the fish is going to be more afraid of the ace than a reg might. So we're probably not going to get 2 bets. We do want to get 1 bet from random kings. As it turns out, he probably just had a pocket pair or something like that. That there was really nothing we could do to get any extra action. Just grateful to, bink our ace.